Imagine waking up tomorrow and someone hands you the keys to a brand new cruise ship worth $1.2 billion. Sounds like winning the lottery, right? Except there's one problem. Before your first passenger even steps aboard, you've already committed yourself to one of the most expensive businesses on Earth. Unlike buying a house or opening a restaurant, owning a cruise ship means operating a floating city. Inside that single vessel are hundreds of hotel rooms, multiple restaurants, bars, swimming pools, theaters, casinos, shopping areas, power systems, water treatment plants, medical facilities, and thousands of guests expecting everything to work perfectly. Every sunrise begins with enormous financial pressure. Most people assume cruise companies simply sell tickets and collect easy profits. That's the myth. Reality looks very different. Ticket revenue is only one piece of an incredibly complicated economic machine. Long before the buffet opens or the first cocktail is served, money is flowing out through loan payments, insurance, fuel contracts, crew salaries, maintenance schedules, and port agreements. Think about the risk. If a luxury hotel has a slow week, guests simply stop checking in. But the building stays exactly where it is. A cruise ship, however, must keep moving. Engines still burn fuel. Crew members still need paychecks. Food still has to be stocked. Even empty cabins cannot erase those costs. Now comes the surprising twist. Many experienced cruise executives don't obsess over selling the highest-priced cabins. Instead, they focus on filling the ship with passengers who will spend money once they're on board. That shift in thinking changes everything because the ticket often opens the door to dozens of other revenue opportunities waiting inside. So the real question isn't whether cruise companies can sell vacations. It's whether they can transform every sailing into a profitable ecosystem where every restaurant, casino, excursion, and experience works together, because that's where the economics become truly fascinating. In other words, a cruise ship is less like a single business and more like an entire economy floating across the ocean. Every decision, from cabin pricing to buffet menus, affects profit. Every delayed departure, mechanical repair, or empty deck chair carries a financial consequence. Understanding those invisible connections is what separates casual observers from informed investors. And once you see how the numbers fit together, you'll never look at a departing cruise ship the same way again. Instead, you'll start asking one far more interesting question. Where does the real money actually come from when tickets are only the beginning of the story hidden beneath the luxury experience? Most people believe cruise companies make their fortune by selling expensive cabins. In reality, the ticket is often just an invitation into a carefully designed spending ecosystem. Once passengers step on board, nearly every decision becomes another opportunity to generate profit. That simple shift explains why full ships matter so much. Start with the cabin. A family might pay $1,000 for an interior room, while another family spends $5,000 for a luxury suite. Those differences certainly matter, but operators know the vacation has only begun. From the first welcome drink onward, every convenience carries another opportunity to earn. Drink packages are a perfect example. Instead of paying separately for beverages, guests prepay hundreds of dollars because unlimited access feels like a bargain. Specialty restaurants promise premium experiences beyond the included buffet. The spa sells relaxation. Photographers capture memories. Casinos invite entertainment. Gift shops offer souvenirs. Faster internet keeps travelers connected. Shore excursions transform ordinary stops into unforgettable adventures. Now imagine two passengers boarding the same ship. Sarah books the cheapest cabin available and carefully tracks every expense. She enjoys the included meals, skips the casino, avoids premium dining, and returns home after spending only $300 beyond her ticket. David books that very same inexpensive cabin but purchases a drink package, reserves specialty dinners, joins 2 guided excursions, visits the spa, buys family photographs, and spends an evening in the casino. By the voyage's end, his onboard purchases exceed $2,000. The cruise company earned far more from David after boarding than before. This difference reveals the industry's real strategy. Filling cabins creates opportunity, but maximizing onboard spending creates profitability. Cruise lines analyze passenger behavior, test pricing, design promotions, and personalize offers to encourage additional purchases without making the experience feel forced. Even seemingly small services matter. Laundry, childcare, birthday celebrations, private cabanas, cooking classes, wine tastings, and behind-the-scenes tours all generate incremental revenue. Individually, they may appear minor, yet multiplied across thousands of passengers, they become millions of dollars every year. The smartest operators understand that every guest follows a different spending journey. Some value luxury, others chase convenience. Families prioritize experiences. Couples celebrate anniversaries. Retirees might prefer excursions. Instead of forcing everyone into one model, cruise companies create dozens of optional choices that let passengers voluntarily increase their own vacation budget. That is why ticket prices sometimes look surprisingly affordable. A lower fare can attract more travelers, and more travelers create more opportunities for profitable onboard spending. Once you recognize this business model, the cruise industry starts looking less like transportation and more like a sophisticated marketplace. The answer begins with expenses. Fuel alone can consume staggering sums every single day. Fresh food must feed thousands. Crew members work around the clock. Ports charge fees. Engines require constant maintenance. Luxury may look effortless, but keeping that illusion alive is extraordinarily expensive every single voyage. To why now, it might seem like cruise companies have discovered the perfect business. Thousands of passengers keep spending money. Every deck offers another source of revenue, and every sailing appears packed with opportunity. But here's the reality that most people never see. Behind every unforgettable vacation is a non-stop stream of expenses that never takes a day off. Unlike many businesses that can reduce costs when demand falls, a cruise ship has remarkably high fixed expenses. Whether every cabin is occupied or half the ship sits empty, the vessel still needs to sail safely, feed its guests, power its systems, and maintain the same level of service. That makes every empty cabin far more expensive than most people realize. Fuel is one of the biggest expenses. A modern cruise ship consumes enormous quantities of fuel every day just to move thousands of passengers across the ocean while generating electricity for restaurants, elevators, air conditioning, lighting, pools, and entertainment venues. Even small increases in fuel prices can add millions of dollars to annual operating costs. Then comes food. Feeding several thousand passengers and crew members isn't like stocking a neighborhood grocery store. Fresh produce, seafood, meat, desserts, beverages, and specialty ingredients must be loaded before departure, carefully stored, and constantly replenished. Guests expect unlimited choices, but every untouched plate still represents money spent. Crew salaries create another major expense. Large cruise ships employ thousands of people, including chefs, engineers, cleaners, entertainers, doctors, security staff, technicians, and hospitality workers. They don't simply receive wages. Companies also provide accommodations, meals, training, uniforms, transportation, and medical support, turning payroll into one of the industry's largest ongoing commitments. Maintenance never stops either. Saltwater is incredibly corrosive, meaning engines, hulls, plumbing, electrical systems, and safety equipment require continuous inspections and repairs. Even when a ship isn't carrying passengers, technicians work behind the scenes to keep everything operating reliably. Add insurance, port fees, waste management, water production, internet infrastructure, entertainment, laundry services, cleaning supplies, and environmental compliance, and the daily bill becomes staggering. Imagine spending hundreds of thousands of dollars before earning a single dollar from today's passengers. That's the financial reality cruise operators face every morning. Now picture two identical ships. One sails completely full, while the other leaves port with only half its cabins occupied. Their fuel consumption remains similar. Their crews still report for duty. Their engines still require maintenance. Most operating costs barely change, yet one ship generates dramatically less revenue. That's why occupancy isn't just important. It's the foundation of profitability. But as enormous as these daily expenses are, they're still only part of the financial puzzle. The biggest obligation began years before the first vacation ever started, when someone had to find billions of dollars to build the ship itself. Building a modern cruise ship isn't like buying a vehicle or even constructing a luxury hotel. Before the first passenger books a cabin, the company must solve an even bigger challenge: finding well over $1 billion to pay for the ship itself. Very few businesses can write a check that large, so financing becomes the foundation of the entire business model. Most cruise companies don't purchase ships outright. Instead, they rely on long-term financing through bank loans, corporate bonds, and specialized export credit agencies that support domestic shipbuilders. These arrangements spread the enormous cost over decades, allowing companies to launch new vessels without paying the entire price up front. The trade-off, however, is years of interest payments that continue regardless of how successful the ship becomes. Think of it like buying a house with a mortgage, but on an unimaginable scale. Suppose a cruise line orders a ship costing $1.4 billion. Even if it finances most of that amount over 20 years, the monthly payments remain enormous. Every voyage must generate enough cash not only to cover fuel, payroll, and maintenance, but also to satisfy lenders expecting repayment on schedule. Then comes depreciation, a concept many people overlook. A cruise ship may remain operational for decades, yet its accounting value gradually declines each year. Newer vessels introduce bigger attractions, improved technology, greater fuel efficiency, and more luxurious accommodations. As competitors launch more advanced ships, older vessels become less competitive, forcing operators to renovate them or accept lower pricing. That creates a difficult balancing act. Companies must keep investing in modern ships to attract passengers, yet every new vessel adds more debt to the balance sheet. Delay too long, and customers may choose newer competitors. Expand too aggressively, and rising interest payments can strain profits even during good years. This financial pressure explains why cruise executives constantly monitor borrowing costs and interest rates. When financing becomes more expensive, the economics of ordering another billion-dollar ship can change dramatically. A project that looked profitable one year may suddenly become far less attractive the next. Owning a cruise ship, therefore, isn't simply about operating vacations. It's about managing long-term capital, balancing debt with future demand, and making billion-dollar decisions years before the revenue arrives. Every new vessel is effectively a bet that enough travelers will continue choosing cruises far into the future. And that raises another fascinating question. If these ships are so expensive and risky to finance, why do companies keep building even larger ones instead of playing it safe with smaller vessels? At first glance, building an even larger cruise ship sounds like an unnecessary gamble. If a billion-dollar vessel is already difficult to finance and operate, why would any company spend even more money to create a ship that carries 6,000 or 7,000 passengers? Surprisingly, the answer comes down to one of the most powerful concepts in business: economies of scale. Imagine two cruise ships sailing similar routes. The first carries 2,000 passengers. The second carries nearly 7,000. You might expect the larger ship to cost more than 3 times as much to operate, but that usually isn't the case. Many of the biggest expenses don't increase at the same rate as passenger capacity. Every ship still needs a captain, navigation systems, a bridge, safety equipment, marketing teams, reservation systems, and corporate management. While a larger vessel certainly requires more crew members and more supplies, those fixed costs are spread across thousands of additional passengers. As a result, the average operating cost per guest can actually fall. Now consider onboard revenue. A bigger ship doesn't simply add more cabins. It adds more restaurants, more bars, larger casinos, luxury shopping, water parks, theaters, and premium experiences. That creates far more opportunities for passengers to spend money throughout the trip. Instead of relying on 1 or 2 attractions, the ship becomes a complete entertainment destination capable of generating revenue from dozens of different sources simultaneously. However, bigger isn't automatically better. Megaships also introduce entirely new risks. They require ports with specialized infrastructure, larger crews, greater fuel consumption, and much higher construction costs. If bookings weaken during an economic slowdown, those massive fixed costs don't disappear. The company still has debt to repay and an enormous asset that must remain profitable. Picture 2 cruise companies. One owns 5 smaller ships operating flexible routes around the world. The other owns two massive flagship vessels designed for maximum efficiency. A recession suddenly reduces vacation spending. The first company can shift ships to stronger markets or temporarily reduce capacity. The second faces much greater pressure because each ship represents a larger share of its business and carries much heavier financial obligations. This is the trade-off cruise executives constantly evaluate. Larger ships can produce higher profits when demand is strong because they reduce costs per passenger and unlock more onboard spending. But they also magnify mistakes when demand falls. The very strategy that creates extraordinary profitability during good times can become a serious burden during difficult ones. That leaves one final question. If cruise companies understand both the rewards and the risks of building ever larger ships, what unexpected events have the power to turn a thriving business into a financial crisis almost overnight? Even the most profitable cruise company can't control everything. It can build a spectacular ship, fill it with restaurants and entertainment, and carefully manage its operating costs. But some of the biggest threats come from outside the business, and they can change the industry's fortunes almost overnight. Fuel prices are a perfect example. Cruise ships consume enormous amounts of fuel every day, so even a modest increase in global energy prices can dramatically reduce profit margins. Companies may try to hedge fuel costs or improve efficiency, but they can never eliminate this risk entirely. Economic downturns create another challenge. Cruises are discretionary purchases, not necessities. When households worry about inflation, rising interest rates, or job security, vacations are often among the first expenses they postpone. A small decline in bookings can have a surprisingly large impact because most operating costs remain fixed regardless of how many passengers are on board. Weather also plays an important role. Hurricanes, severe storms, and changing climate conditions can force ships to cancel itineraries, skip ports, or refund excursions. While passengers may only see an altered schedule, cruise companies often absorb significant financial losses behind the scenes. Then there are geopolitical events. Political instability, regional conflicts, changing travel regulations, or new environmental rules can suddenly make certain destinations less attractive or completely unavailable. Cruise lines must constantly adjust routes, negotiate with ports, and respond to changing government policies around the world. Perhaps the clearest illustration of industry risk came during the COVID-19 pandemic. Cruise operations around the world came to a near standstill for months. Revenue collapsed, but loan payments, maintenance expenses, and many other obligations continued. To survive, several companies borrowed billions of dollars, leaving them with much heavier debt loads long after ships returned to service. The lesson wasn't simply that demand can disappear. It was that balance sheets matter just as much as beautiful ships. Two companies might offer nearly identical vacations, but the one carrying less debt and holding stronger cash reserves has far more flexibility during difficult periods. This is why experienced investors rarely judge cruise companies by passenger numbers alone. They study debt levels, cash flow, operating margins, and liquidity because those figures reveal whether a business can withstand unexpected shocks. Strong demand is important, but financial resilience determines who survives the next crisis. After seeing these risks, the final question becomes clear. With massive investments, constant expenses, and unpredictable external threats, is owning a cruise ship actually worth it in the long run? After breaking down the revenue streams, operating costs, financing challenges, economies of scale, and unexpected risks, we're left with the question that matters most. Is owning a cruise ship actually a good business? The answer isn't a simple yes or no. Like many great investments, it depends on how well the business is managed and how prepared it is for both opportunity and uncertainty. Cruise companies have several powerful advantages. They generate revenue from multiple sources instead of relying on a single product. Ticket sales, restaurants, casinos, excursions, drink packages, retail stores, spas, and premium experiences all work together to increase the value of every passenger. Customer loyalty also plays a major role. Many travelers return year after year, providing a steady stream of repeat business that reduces marketing costs and strengthens long-term profitability. At the same time, the industry demands enormous discipline. Cruise lines must manage billions of dollars in assets, carefully balance debt, maintain high occupancy, and constantly modernize their fleets. A few poor decisions, rising interest rates, or an unexpected global crisis can quickly erase years of strong financial performance. In many ways, cruise companies combine elements of several different industries. They're part hotel, part airline, part entertainment company, part shopping mall, and part transportation network. That diversity creates remarkable earning potential, but it also introduces layers of complexity that few other businesses face. The biggest lesson isn't really about cruise ships. It's about understanding how capital-intensive businesses work. High revenue doesn't automatically mean high profits. What matters is how efficiently a company turns that revenue into sustainable cash flow while managing debt and preparing for future risks. So, the next time you watch a massive cruise ship leave the harbor, don't just see a luxury vacation. See a floating city, a billion-dollar investment, and one of the most fascinating business models in the modern economy. Behind every smiling passenger is an intricate financial machine where thousands of decisions determine success or failure. And once you understand those economics, you'll never look at the cruise industry or any large business the same way again.